The first rays of dawn had yet to pierce the morning mist shrouding the city when Ryan Carter descended from his luxury penthouse, his mind already racing ahead to the day's agenda. A crucial meeting with a venture capital firm was scheduled for 8:00 a.m., and his ironclad discipline demanded he be at his downtown office before anyone else, a habit that had propelled him to the zenith of the tech world before he'd even hit 35. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," his driver John greeted him, the door of the sleek black sedan already open in a gesture of practiced efficiency. "Good morning, John," Ryan responded, his eyes glued to the stream of emails on his phone as he slipped inside the car. As he settled into the plush leather, a peculiar stillness seemed to hang in the air. Maybe it was the unusually clear sky for this time of year, or the profound quiet of the streets, still asleep before the city's daily chaos erupted. But an odd premonition prickled at him, a sense that the day was poised on the edge of something transformative. The car cruised effortlessly from the underground garage and onto the main thoroughfare, Ryan completely engrossed in his digital world until John applied the brakes with a suddenness that jolted him, eliciting an irritated grunt. "What was that?" "Sorry, sir," John replied, gesturing toward the front of the vehicle. "Children in the street." Ryan peered through the tinted window and saw two small girls standing directly in the path of the car. They had tangled light brown hair and were dressed in worn hand-me-downs that swallowed their small frames. They couldn't be older than 5. "What on earth are they doing alone at this hour of the morning?" he murmured, more to the empty space beside him than to his driver. The girls remained frozen, holding hands and staring at the car with a solemn intensity, as if they were waiting for it specifically. Ryan let out a deep, weary sigh. "Wait here," he instructed, and exited the vehicle. The cool morning air was a sharp contrast to the car's climate control, and he instinctively adjusted the collar of his sharp designer suit as he approached them. They were identical twins, he now saw, with large, serious eyes, delicate features, and a look of resolve that seemed far too mature for their young faces. "Shouldn't you be in school?" he asked, his tone firm but not unkind. "Where are your parents?" One of the girls took a hesitant step forward. "I'm Lily," she said, her voice surprisingly steady, "and this is my sister Daisy." She motioned to her twin, who observed him with a slightly more guarded gaze. "Our mom is in heaven." Ryan felt a pang of something he hadn't felt in years, a familiar ache in his chest. Orphans. He knew that emptiness intimately. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice softening. "But shouldn't you be with some grown-up? It's dangerous for 2 little girls to be out here alone." "We need your help," Daisy said, her voice a whisper lower than her sister's. "You look kind." Something about the raw sincerity in the child's statement disarmed him. Ryan scanned the street, looking for any adult who might be supervising from a distance, but the sidewalks were deserted. My help with what he asked, glancing at his expensive watch. He was already behind schedule. Lily opened the small, tattered backpack she was wearing and pulled out a faded spiral notebook, its pages loose and dog-eared. "We want you to write a letter to our mom," she explained, holding the notebook out to him. "We don't know how to write very well yet." Ryan's gaze shifted from the girl to the notebook, then to John, who stood by the car with unwavering patience, and back to the girls. The request was preposterous. He had a meeting that could shape the future of his company, and he was being solicited on a city sidewalk by 2 children to ghostwrite a letter to the deceased. "Look, I really need to go, please," Daisy insisted, her eyes welling up with tears. Mom is waiting. Something in the quiet desperation of her words hit him like a physical blow. He saw a fleeting image of himself, a scrawny boy pleading for a scrap of kindness. He sighed again, the sound of his own resolve crumbling. 5 minutes, he conceded, pointing to a nearby park bench. "Let's sit over there." The girls broke into identical smiles that illuminated their smudged faces and trotted beside him to the bench. Ryan sat between them, a twin on either side. Lily handed him the notebook, and Daisy produced a well-worn pencil from the pocket of her oversized dress. "What do you want to tell her?" he asked, mentally scripting a few quick, comforting lines to get this over with. "That we miss her a lot," Lily began. "A whole lot," Daisy echoed, her gaze drifting up to the clouds as if she could see her mother there. "And that we still keep her photo under our pillow," Lily added. Daisy reached into her pocket again and pulled out a folded, crumpled photograph. "Here," she said, offering it to him, "so you know how pretty she is." Ryan took the photo, more out of a sense of obligation than curiosity, ready to get on with the dictation. But when he unfolded the creased paper and his eyes fell upon the image, his entire world tilted on its axis. It was the face of a young woman with light brown hair, just like the girl's, wearing a smile he knew better than his own reflection. Jennifer. The air left his lungs in a sudden whoosh, as if he'd been sucker-punched. His hands began to shake, and before he could suppress it, a single tear escaped and traced a path down his cheek. He wiped it away hastily, but he couldn't dislodge the lump forming in his throat. Jennifer Johnson, his Jennifer. "Are you crying?" Lily asked, leaning in to get a better look at his face. Ryan couldn't find his voice. A torrent of memories flooded him. Jennifer sharing her lunch with him after he'd run away from his foster home, Jennifer cleaning the cuts on his knuckles after a fight, Jennifer holding his hand at her own mother's funeral, Jennifer pushing him to accept the scholarship that would take him 1,000 miles away. "You knew our mom?" Daisy asked, her eyes widening with astonishment. Ryan swallowed hard, managing a nod, still unable to speak. "We were," he started, his voice cracking. "We were friends a long time ago." The twins exchanged a look of pure amazement and then scooted closer to him, their weariness replaced by a sudden, intense curiosity. "Really?" Lily exclaimed, her eyes shining. "How did you meet her later?" Ryan said, carefully refolding the photograph and handing it back to Daisy. The past could wait. He needed to understand the present. How long has it been since she left? 2 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days? Lily answered with the precision of someone who counts every passing moment. Ryan closed his eyes, trying to process it all. Jennifer gone. These girls, her daughters, left behind. "Where do you live?" he asked, a sudden dread coiling in his stomach. "Who's taking care of you?" "At Maple Street Apartments, Apartment 2C, Lily recited, as if she had drilled the address into her memory. "We take care of ourselves. We know how to make instant noodles and everything." The pride in her voice was like a knife twisting in Ryan's gut. 5-year-olds, alone, surviving on processed soup. "But the neighbors help," Daisy added quickly. "The lady in 3A sometimes leaves food at our door." Ryan shot to his feet, tucking the photograph into the inside pocket of his suit jacket. The venture capital meeting, the millions on the line, it all felt utterly trivial now. "Let's write this letter," he said, sitting back down. "Then I'll take you home." The girls dictated their words of love and longing, telling their mom about their small daily adventures, about how brave they were trying to be, about the stars they believed were her eyes watching over them. Ryan wrote down every single word, fighting a constant battle against the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. When he was done, Daisy looked up at him shyly. "Can you sign it too?" she asked. "So Mom knows we have a new friend." Ryan hesitated for a fraction of a second before signing his name at the bottom. Another lump formed in his throat as he thought of all the years he'd let slip by without a word to Jennifer. If he had just reached out, maybe she would still be here. Maybe these girls wouldn't be on their own. "Let's go," he said, standing and offering them his hands. "My car is waiting." As they walked toward the black sedan, Daisy clutched his hand, her small fingers tight around his. "Mom said an angel would come for us," she said softly. "Maybe it's you." A chill ran down Ryan's spine. He was no angel, not by a long shot. He was just a man who had traded his humanity for success. But maybe, just maybe, he could start to do the right thing now. "I'll help you," he promised, opening the car door for them. While the twins settled into the leather seats, a world away from their reality, Ryan gave John the new instructions and sent a curt message canceling his meeting. Some things were more important than business. Jennifer had taught him that once, and now, through her daughters, she was teaching him again. The luxury sedan stopped in front of a rundown building on a bleak street. Ryan stared through the window, taking in the dilapidated structure with its peeling paint and windows patched with cardboard, a place where hope seemed as scarce as basic maintenance. "This is it," said Lily, already unbuckling her seatbelt. "Third-floor apartment 2C. Ryan hesitated, a part of him desperate to go up, to see their living conditions, to do something tangible right now. But another part, a mixture of guilt and fear, kept him glued to the leather seat. "Are you sure you'll be okay alone?" he asked, watching the two tiny figures hop onto the cracked pavement. Daisy nodded, adjusting the worn backpack on her shoulder. "We're always okay." There was a world-weariness in her eyes that no 5-year-old should possess, the look of someone who had seen too much loss. Ryan pulled out his wallet and took out a wad of cash. For food, he explained, handing it to Lily. The girl looked at her sister, a flicker of uncertainty on her face. Mom said not to take money from strangers, she recalled. But he knew Mom Daisy reasoned. "He's not a stranger." Lily accepted the money, carefully stowing it in the pocket of her dress. "I'll come back tomorrow," Ryan promised, the words feeling heavy in his throat. "Will you be okay until then?" "We always are," Daisy answered with a simple finality. He watched them walk toward the building's entrance, two small figures against a backdrop of decay, and disappear inside. He didn't follow. He didn't see where they lived. But in his mind, he was already picturing the worst. "Take me home, John," he instructed the driver, his eyes fixed on the building's entrance long after the girls had vanished. During the drive back to his penthouse, Ryan was silent, Jennifer's photo a ghost in his pocket. The city flew by in a blur, the chasm between the opulent high-rises and the squalor of Maple Street more glaring than ever. His home, a sprawling penthouse with panoramic views, had never felt so cold and desolate. As he stepped into the grand, minimalist foyer, the polished concrete floors, the museum-quality art, the floor-to-ceiling windows, all seemed to mock him. "Mr. Carter, there's a call from—" his assistant's voice began over the intercom. "Cancel everything," he cut her off, already heading for the master suite. "I don't want to be disturbed." In his bedroom, Ryan locked the door and walked directly to the expansive walk-in closet. At the very back, behind rows of designer suits and custom shoes, was a cedar chest he hadn't opened in over a decade. It was the only tangible piece of his life before he became Ryan Carter, the relentless tech mogul. He dragged it into the center of the room, staring at it for a long moment. Inside were all the memories he had tried to outrun, all the feelings he had suppressed to build his empire. With trembling hands, he turned the small key. The scent of the past, of old paper and forgotten dreams, wafted out. On top lay a yellowed envelope. He opened it, revealing a photograph of Jennifer at 16, smiling under an oak tree in the park where they used to meet. Her smile, the same one he had seen in her daughters' faces, radiated a serene confidence that had always captivated him. "Jennifer," he whispered, tracing the image with his finger. The memory hit him with startling clarity. It was a brisk autumn day, and he was huddled in a small abandoned shed in the park, shivering and hungry. He had run away from his foster home again after a particularly harsh punishment. At 12, he knew every hiding spot in the neighborhood. The shed door creaked open, and he flattened himself against the wall, but it was just Jennifer, her school backpack slung over her shoulder. "You're bleeding," she said, pointing to a cut on his temple. "It's nothing," he muttered, looking away. She didn't press. She just sat beside him, opened her backpack, pulled out a sandwich, and broke it in half. "Here," she offered one half. "My mom always makes more than I can eat." He knew it was a lie. Jennifer's mom struggled to make ends meet, but he took it, his hunger overriding his pride. While he devoured the sandwich, she gently cleaned the cut on his temple with a handkerchief. "You can stay in our garage tonight," Jennifer offered, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "My mom works the night shift she won't see." Ryan stared at her, suspicious. "Why are you helping me?" Jennifer shrugged. "Because nobody else will." Ryan blinked, the present rushing back. He set the photo on his bed and dug deeper into the chest. He found an old-school notebook, her neat, round handwriting filling the margins of his messy notes. "You can do it, Ryan. Remember the formula." For weeks she had tutored him, patiently explaining things he pretended not to care about. Another memory surfaced. "My mom lost her job," Jennifer had told him as they studied in the dim light of the public library. They were 15, and she was already working part-time at a local diner. "Will you be okay?" Ryan had asked, a knot of worry in his stomach. Jennifer shrugged, but he saw the fear in her eyes. "We'll figure something out." That night, he slept on the couch in Jennifer's tiny apartment. Her mother had accepted his presence after the third time he showed up with a black eye. The next day, Ryan got a job hauling boxes at a local market. He gave his first paycheck to Jennifer. "What's this?" she asked, surprised. "Rent," he replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do," he interrupted. "I promised Jennifer I'll never let you go without." Ryan swallowed hard, the guilt a physical weight. He was 17 when he made that promise. At 18, he won a full scholarship to a university on the other side of the country. Jennifer had been his biggest champion. "Go chase your dream," she had said. "I'll be fine." In the beginning, they talked every week, then once a month. When Ryan landed his first major internship, the calls became sporadic. He was too busy, too focused on building his new life. By the time his startup took off and he became a millionaire before 30, the calls had stopped altogether. The last thing in the chest was a bundle of newspaper clippings about his achievements, stories of the young tech prodigy that Jennifer had carefully cut out and mailed to him. In the final letter she had written, "I always knew you'd change the world, Ryan. I'm so proud." He never replied. Ryan slammed the chest shut and moved to his desk. He powered on his laptop and began searching for Jennifer's name. He needed to know what happened. He found a small obituary in an online local paper dated 2 months prior. Jennifer Johnson, 34, a teaching assistant at Lincoln Elementary, passed away after complications from pneumonia. She is survived by her twin daughters, Lily and Daisy, age 5. The girls remain under the temporary care of neighbors until authorities can determine their future. Pneumonia, a completely treatable illness. His hands shook as he kept digging. He found a crowdfunding profile Jennifer had created. She was trying to raise money for her treatment. "I need to stay strong for my girls," read the description. The goal was $25,000 for hospitalization and medication. She had only raised $3,000. Ryan felt a wave of nausea. $25,000, it was less than what he spent on a single business dinner, a fraction of what he'd lose on a casual weekend golf bet. "Why didn't you come to me, Jennifer?" he whispered to the empty room. But he knew the answer. He had cut the ties. He had ignored her letters. He had become so immersed in his new world that he had forgotten the one person who believed in him when he had nothing. The broken promise haunted him. "I'll never let you go without." Ryan glanced at the photo of a young, smiling Jennifer, then at the image of her daughters on the crowdfunding page. He couldn't bring her back, but maybe, just maybe, he could still keep his promise. He picked up his phone. "John, get the car ready for tomorrow morning," he ordered. 7. "I have something important to do." Ryan arrived at Maple Street Apartments before 8 a.m. The building looked even more depressing in the daylight. Water stains crawled up the brick walls, and some windows were patched with cardboard. He hesitated for a moment inside the luxury sedan, feeling like an intruder in his expensive suit. But the image of the 2 little girls propelled him out of the car. "I'll be back in a few hours, John," he told the driver and walked toward the entrance. The lobby smelled of dampness and bleach. The elevator had a permanent-looking out-of-order sign. Ryan took the stairs, noting the cracked steps. On the third floor, he stopped in front of apartment 2C and knocked. He waited. He knocked again, harder. Nothing. A flicker of panic ignited. As he was about to knock a third time, the door of the adjacent apartment opened. An elderly woman with white hair in a messy bun and thick glasses peered at him suspiciously. "If you're looking for the girls, they're here with me," she said, her voice surprisingly firm. "Here?" Ryan asked, confused. "Apartment 3A," the woman replied, gesturing to her own door. "I'm Mrs. Olson. I looked after them whenever Jennifer had to work extra hours now." She didn't finish the sentence, but the meaning hung in the air. "May I see them?" Ryan asked, a knot forming in his throat. Mrs. Olson sized him up from head to toe. "You're the man who brought them home yesterday?" It wasn't a question. He nodded. "I knew Jennifer. We were childhood friends." That seemed to mollify her slightly. "They're still sleeping," she said, but stepped aside to let him in. The small apartment was as worn as the building itself. The wallpaper was peeling, the couch had patched tears, but it was clean, and a sense of dignity fought against the poverty. "They sleep over there," Mrs. Olson said, pointing to a small room with the door ajar. Ryan approached quietly. The room was tiny, likely Mrs. Olson's own, with a single bed on the floor. On a thin mattress, Lily and Daisy slept curled together, a single threadbare blanket covering them. Between their small bodies lay the faded notebook. Ryan's heart clenched. They were just children, clinging to each other and the memory of their mother. As he watched, Daisy stirred, murmuring something in her sleep. He leaned closer. "Mom said you were an angel," she whispered, still caught between dream and reality. "But you took so long to come." Ryan felt a shiver. The child was dreaming, of course. Jennifer couldn't have known he would ever show up. "They always talk in their sleep," Mrs. Olson explained from behind him. "I think it's their way of keeping their mom alive." "How long have they been with you?" he asked, stepping back. "Since Jennifer was hospitalized 3 months ago. At first, it was just until she got better." The elderly woman's voice trailed off. "Well, now I'm waiting for social services to decide it's not official. You know, I'm too old to adopt and my health isn't good." Ryan nodded, understanding the precariousness of it all. "I want to help." Mrs. Olson gave a faint, weary smile. "They need more stability than charity." "Mr. Carter?" "Ryan Carter." Her eyes widened with recognition. "The businessman from the magazines?" "Yes, Jennifer kept newspaper clippings about you," Mrs. Olson said, looking at him with new interest. She never mentioned that she knew you personally. Before Ryan could respond, a sound came from the bedroom. The girls were awake. Lily was the first to appear, rubbing her eyes. When she saw Ryan, her face lit up. "You really came back," she exclaimed, running to hug his legs. Daisy followed, more cautious but with a smile of relief. "I thought it was a dream," she said, her small voice full of wonder. Ryan felt a wall he had spent years building around his heart begin to crumble. "I promised I'd be back, didn't I?" He smiled, crouching to their level. "And I have an idea. How about we go to the park today?" The city's Central Park was nearly deserted at that hour. Ryan watched Lily and Daisy run across the grass, their laughter echoing in the crisp air. Even in their worn clothes, they were like wildflowers, resilient and determined to bloom. "Higher!" Lily shouted from a swing. Ryan pushed gently, surprised by the simple joy of the act. He couldn't remember the last time he'd done something so uncomplicated. His life was a blur of meetings, deals, and bottom lines. He was discovering now that a child's laughter held more value than any contract. "My turn," Daisy complained, tugging on the sleeve of his expensive suit. He alternated between them, a strange, natural rhythm taking over. It felt as if a dormant part of him was finally waking up. "Did you really know our mom?" Lily asked when they took a break on a bench. Ryan nodded, the familiar lump in his throat returning. "We were friends as kids. We lived in the same neighborhood. Was she pretty when she was little?" Daisy wanted to know. She was the most beautiful person I ever knew, he answered honestly. Inside and out, the girls beamed with pride. She used to sing to us every night, Lily said. Her song about a little bird looking for its nest, and she braided my hair, Daisy added. Said I looked like a princess. She baked butterfly-shaped birthday cakes, Lily continued, excited. And fixed our toys when they broke one by one. Their stories painted a portrait of the adult Jennifer he had never known. A loving, resourceful mother who created magic out of very little. I'm hungry, Lily announced suddenly. Ryan checked his watch. It was nearly noon. Let's get something to eat. A fancy cafe sat across the street, but the girls pointed to a hot dog cart in the park. Mom used to buy us one sometimes, Daisy explained. On special Sundays, Ryan smiled and led them to the cart. He bought 3 hot dogs with everything, watching the girls eat with an enthusiasm that made him forget his own hunger. He was transported back in time to Jennifer sharing her lunch with him, the kind lie so he wouldn't feel like a charity case. Do you go to school? He asked, realizing it was a weekday. The twins exchanged a look. We went to the same school Mom worked at, Lily answered. But after she went to heaven, we stopped. No one takes us, Daisy explained, and it's too far to go alone. Ryan took a deep breath, fighting a surge of anger. Another thing to fix. I want to take you to a doctor today, he announced after they finished. For a checkup? Are we sick? Daisy asked, alarmed. No, it's just to make sure you're healthy, he smiled reassuringly. And after that, we'll buy you some new clothes. How does that sound? The girl's eyes widened with excitement. Can I get a pink dress? Lily asked. With white polka dots, Daisy added. You can have whatever you want, he promised, taking their small hands. A few hours later, they returned to Mrs. Olson's apartment, laden with bags of new clothes. The private doctor Ryan had called confirmed the twins were remarkably healthy, all things considered. They needed vitamins and a dental visit, but it was a miracle given their circumstances. Greta, look what we got, Lily exclaimed, showing off her new treasures. While the girls chattered excitedly, Ryan pulled Mrs. Olson aside. Could we talk for a bit? The elderly woman led him to the small kitchen. How did Jennifer end up here? Ryan asked directly. In this place? Mrs. Olson sighed heavily. She arrived pregnant 5 years ago, looking for a cheap place to start over. She never talked much about the past, but you could tell she was running from something or someone, the girl's father, a good-for-nothing, Mrs. Olson spat. He showed up once when the girls were toddlers, drunk and demanding money. Jennifer threw him out and threatened to call the police if he returned. She shook her head. He never came back, and how did she support them? With great sacrifice. Mrs. Olson replied. She taught at the elementary school as a teacher's aide, during the day at night. She cleaned offices downtown on weekends. She sold crafts at fairs. She worked until the last day, even though she was already sick. Why didn't she look for help? Ryan asked, the question haunting him. I asked the same when the pneumonia got worse. Mrs. Olson sighed. She said she'd already asked too much from people she'd learned to manage on her own. Ryan closed his eyes, picturing Jennifer, exhausted and ill, fighting alone. She scrimped on everything for herself, Mrs. Olson went on. Mended her own clothes so she could buy children's books. For the twins, stretched one meal for days so they could have fruit. Sometimes she'd say she'd already eaten at work, just so the girls could have bigger portions. Every word was a fresh wound in Ryan's heart. While he lived in a penthouse with a private chef, Jennifer had starved herself for her children. Last Christmas, Mrs. Olson continued. She made the girls new dresses from scraps she got for free. At a fabric store, she spent nights sewing after they went to sleep. They were so happy they thought it was magic. Ryan pictured her sewing late into the night just to see her daughter's smile on Christmas morning. When she got too sick to work, she sold the only valuable thing. She had a necklace that belonged to her mother. She got a small amount of money, but paid the rent for 1 more month. Mrs. Olson wiped a tear. She made me swear I'd keep the girls together if something happened. That was her biggest fear, that they'd be separated in different foster homes. Ryan felt a knot in his throat. Why did she never reach out to me? I could have helped? Mrs. Olson looked at him intently. She kept your clippings. You know, newspaper stories, magazines. She showed them to the girls, saying, "Look how he's changing the world." But I think there was a huge gulf between your world and hers. A gulf he had built himself, Ryan thought. Every promotion, every acquisition, every new digit in his bank account had been a step away from his past, from the people who mattered. In the hospital, Mrs. Olson continued. When she was very weak, she mentioned you. She said you were like siblings once, that you'd followed your path just as it should be. The elderly woman adjusted her glasses. There was no resentment, you know, just a sad acceptance that life separates people. Ryan lowered his head, unable to bear the weight of her words. Jennifer had kept believing in him even after he had forgotten her. "What will happen to the girls now?" he asked after a long silence. "Social Services is looking for a home for them. They wanted to take them to a temporary shelter, but I beg to keep them here until a family is found." Mrs. Olson hesitated. "But I don't know how long I can care for them. My health is fragile and my pension barely covers my own expenses." Back in the living room, Ryan found Lily and Daisy asleep on the small couch, exhausted from the day. They were huddled together, clutching Jennifer's notebook between them. They looked like two small, shipwrecked angels. He knelt beside them, studying their peaceful faces. In the dim light of that humble apartment, he made a silent vow to Jennifer, wherever she was. "I won't abandon them like I abandoned you. I'll love them and protect them just like you would. I'll do better for them and for you." The guilt was a burden he would carry forever. But maybe, just maybe, by caring for her daughters, he could begin to find redemption. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan Carter's life was completely upended. His pristine penthouse, once a monument to minimalist design, was now cheerfully cluttered with children's drawings and two small coats hanging by the door. His schedule, once a relentless gauntlet of meetings, was now built around sacred blocks of time labeled Park with the Girls and Movie Night. The transition wasn't seamless. After a series of hearings where his commitment was scrutinized, Ryan had obtained temporary custody. Social Services, initially wary of a single, wealthy man with no experience, were swayed by his genuine devotion and the girls' dire situation. Still, he was under constant evaluation. "Daisy, have you brushed your teeth yet?" Ryan asked, attempting to braid Lily's hair. "I did," the girl replied, appearing with a toothpaste-smeared chin. Ryan smiled and wiped her face with a tissue. "Try again, and this time use water." "Okay." These small domestic moments were a new language he was learning. He hired a professional nanny, Mrs. Bennett, for daytime help, but he insisted on handling the mornings and evenings himself. He wanted to be more than a provider. He wanted to be present. "Can I take Mr. Buttons to school today?" Lily asked, holding up a worn teddy bear. "Won't he be lonely in your backpack?" Ryan asked, finishing the braid with a surprising new dexterity. Lily considered this seriously. "Maybe it's better if he stays here and looks after your office?" Ryan smiled. "Ready for the day, Mr. Buttons?" he asked the bear, placing it on his desk like a furry sentinel. Lily giggled, delighted. The sound filled a void in his heart he never knew he had. Over the weekend, Ryan took the girls to the park with brand-new bicycles, complete with training wheels and helmets. The twins were ecstatic. "You have to balance," he explained, holding Daisy's bike as she wobbled. "That's it, very good, don't let go," she pleaded. "I won't let go until you're ready," he promised. Lily, ever the adventurer, was already pedaling ahead. "Look, Ryan, I'm riding," she shouted, her face glowing. He smiled at the use of his first name. The girls had dropped the formal Mr. Carter, a sign the walls were coming down. For an hour he ran between them, teaching them to brake and turn. His expensive slacks were stained with grass, but he didn't care. When Daisy finally pedaled a few feet on her own, her triumphant smile was more rewarding than any IPO. "I did it, did you see? I did it, I sure did." Ryan applauded, feeling a surge of pride that stunned him. "You're amazing, Daisy," on the way home. Ryan reflected on how much had changed. 3 months ago, a Sunday would have been for work. Now it was for grass stains and scraped knees and a heart that felt unexpectedly full. Evenings became his favorite time. After dinner together, he would read them a bedtime story. "Which book are we reading tonight?" he asked, sitting on the edge of their shared bed. "Make up a story Lily requested, about what a dragon Sophie suggested, who becomes friends with a princess," Lily added. Ryan smiled and began a tale of a lonely dragon and a brave princess, realizing he was telling a story about belonging and finding family. By the time he finished, Daisy was asleep, but Lily was still fighting it. "Ryan," she murmured, "are you going to stay with us forever?" The question caught him off guard. "I'll do everything I can to stay with you." "Yes, promise," she insisted, her eyes finally closing. "I promise." And unlike the promise he'd made to Jennifer, he was determined to keep this one. Emily smiled and finally surrendered to sleep. Ryan stayed, watching them. "Just like Jennifer, I'm trying to do the right thing, Jennifer," he whispered into the quiet room. "I hope you're proud." Tuesday morning began like any other. Ryan was making pancakes when the phone rang. He answered, expecting his assistant. "Ryan Carter." "So it's true," a rough, slurred voice replied. "The big businessman is playing daddy now." "Who's calling?" Ryan asked, his grip tightening on the phone. "Consider me a concerned father," the voice sneered. "I heard you've got my daughters." Ryan's blood ran cold. The girl's father, the man Jennifer had thrown out, the man who had abandoned them. "How did you get this number?" Ryan asked, keeping his voice low. "I have my ways," the man said. "Look, let's cut the small talk. I know you're rich. I also know you have no legal rights to my daughters. I, on the other hand, am the biological father, a father who never cared about them," Ryan retorted, anger flaring. "Details, details," the man sneered. "The fact is, I can get them back whenever I want, unless, of course, we reach an agreement." "What kind of agreement?" Ryan asked, already knowing. "A financial one. You keep the girls. I get some suitable compensation for my paternal suffering." Ryan took a deep breath. "You're blackmailing me?" "I'm offering a practical solution," the man corrected. $50,000, and you'll never hear from me again. The girls stay with you. I go on my way. Everyone wins. I'm not paying you to abandon your daughters," Ryan replied firmly. There was a moment of silence. "Listen here, rich boy. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. I can make your life a living hell if I want. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining reality. I have rights over these girls. If we can't reach a deal, I'll take them. And believe me, I know how to work the system in my favor. A sob story about a poor father fighting a billionaire who stole his daughters. The press will eat it up." Ryan gripped the phone, his knuckles white. "What's your name?" "Billy Ray Johnson. Look me up if you want. I'm sure your investigators will find something dirty. Everybody has skeletons," he laughed again. "But on paper, I'm just a father wanting his daughters back. Think about it." The call ended, leaving Ryan stunned. Through the doorway he could see Lily and Daisy, happily oblivious to the new danger. "Does he have any legal rights?" Ryan asked his lawyer, David Lee, a few hours later. "Technically, yes. As the biological father, he has presumed parental rights unless they've been legally terminated. He abandoned them," Ryan argued. "Jennifer raised them alone. Abandonment can be grounds for terminating parental rights, but it has to be proven in court," David explained. "And even then, judges tend to favor family reunification whenever possible." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. He doesn't even care about them. He just wants money, which makes this even more complicated. David agreed. "If we pay, it could be seen as buying children, which is illegal. If we don't pay, he could sue for custody. And while his chances might be slim, the process would be devastating for the girls. What's our best option?" David considered for a moment. "Go on the offensive petition for permanent custody before he does gather evidence of his neglect and abandonment. Show how the girls are thriving under your care. And most importantly, prove you're acting in their best interests, not just flexing your financial power." Ryan nodded, his resolve hardening. "Do whatever's necessary. Hire the best investigators. I want to know everything about this Billy Ray Johnson. "I should warn you that it could get ugly," David cautioned. "He might make accusations, dig into your past question, your motives. The press will likely get involved." "I don't care about the press," Ryan said. "I only care about those two girls. I promised them we'd stay together, and I intend to keep that promise after the lawyer left." Ryan sat in his office, staring at Mr. Buttons, still on guard duty. The thought of losing the girls was a physical pain. They had become his world. The phone rang again. He answered cautiously. "Mr. Carter, this is the school calling. Lily has a fever and is asking for you. All thoughts of lawsuits and blackmail evaporated." "I'm on my way," he said, already grabbing his keys. As he left, he glanced at the teddy bear. "Hold down the fort, Mr. Buttons. We'll be back soon." Whatever battles lay ahead, Ryan was ready to fight them. For Lily and Daisy, for Jennifer, and for himself. The family court was an imposing building of red brick and white columns, a stark contrast to the gray autumn sky. Ryan arrived early, accompanied by David Lee and a team carrying meticulously organized files. Walking the polished marble corridors, Ryan felt as if he were walking to his own execution. His heart hammered against his ribs. "Take a deep breath," David advised. "Judge Thompson is known for being fair, though strict. She'll ask a lot of questions, some possibly uncomfortable answer. Honestly, look her in the eye and avoid rambling. The more direct, the better." Ryan nodded, trying to calm his racing thoughts. "Have the girls arrived yet?" "They're with the social worker in a separate room," David confirmed. "Dr. Martinez is with them. She's one of the best in the department. She'll prepare them properly for the talk with the judge." A door opened, and Ryan saw Lily and Daisy, led by a kind-faced woman. They wore new dresses, Lily in pink and Daisy in blue. When they saw him, their faces lit up before they remembered the need for composure. Ryan had explained what would happen. "It'll be like talking to the school principal," he had said. "You just need to say how you feel and what it's like to live with me." "What if they ask about Mom?" Daisy had asked, her eyes wide with worry. "Then speak about her with all the love you have in your heart," he had answered. Now, seeing them so small in this intimidating place, Ryan felt a fear greater than any he had known in a boardroom. Dr. Martinez approached. "Mr. Carter." "Good morning. The girls are fine, but a little nervous." "As expected, they'll have a chance to speak with you before the hearing." Ryan knelt to their level. "Hello, princesses. Are you ready, Lily?" Always the stronger one nodded seriously. "We're being brave. Like you said," Daisy, however, looked close to tears. "I don't like it here. It's big and scary." "I know," he agreed, straightening the bow in her hair. "But it'll be over soon, and then we can go get ice cream." "How about that?" Daisy's eyes brightened slightly. "With chocolate sprinkles any way you want," he promised. At that moment, Billy Ray Johnson entered with his lawyer, a man with a hard face and a cheap suit. Billy Ray wore an ill-fitting suit, and Ryan could see the tremor in his hands from a distance. The girls followed his gaze. "Who's that man?" Lily asked. Ryan hesitated. "That's Billy Ray Johnson. He's your biological father." Daisy clutched his hand tighter. "He doesn't look like us." "Not all families look alike, sweetheart," he replied softly. A court officer announced the hearing would begin in 15 minutes. Dr. Martinez gently led the girls away. Ryan watched them go, his heart aching with every step. "Remember," David said, patting his shoulder. "We're well prepared. We have strong witnesses, positive social worker reports, and proof of Johnson's neglect. Stay calm and confident." Ryan tried to hold on to those words as he entered the courtroom. Courtroom number 4 was smaller than he expected, paneled in dark wood. Judge Thompson, a woman with a stern but intelligent face and graying hair, entered. "Good morning, everyone," she began. "We're here to decide custody of Lily and Daisy Johnson, currently under temporary guardianship by Mr. Ryan Carter, but whose custody is contested by their biological father, Mr. Billy Ray Johnson." She looked over her glasses. "I emphasize that in my courtroom, the only interest is the children's well-being. I'm not swayed by power or money, nor by tearful redemption stories without concrete proof. Ryan felt a sliver of hope. "Well, begin with opening statements," Judge Thompson said. "Mr. Diaz, as counsel for the petitioner, please go ahead." The lawyer stood. "Your Honor, this case is fundamentally about natural and biological rights versus financial privilege. My client, Billy Ray Johnson, is the girl's biological father. This fact is uncontested, and by law grants him presumed parental rights." He paused dramatically. "Mr. Johnson made mistakes in the past. Yes, he was young and unprepared when he learned of the pregnancy. He made the mistake of drifting away. But now he's here ready to assume responsibility, ready to meet his daughters, ready to be the father they deserve. On the other side, we have Mr. Carter, a man of immense wealth and power. Yes, but a complete stranger to the girls until a few months ago. No biological ties, no legal bond, only an old friendship with their late mother." He lowered his voice. "We do not question his intentions or generosity, but we do ask, what is his real motive? Guilt atonement, a philanthropic whim that might end as soon as the novelty wears off?" Ryan's blood boiled, but he kept his expression neutral. "Mr. Carter has vast resources to provide material luxuries, no doubt," Diaz went on. "But can expensive toys in elite schools replace the natural love of a father? The law, in its wisdom, believes they cannot unless it's proven my client is wholly unfit. Natural right prevails over financial convenience." David Lee rose, his calm demeanor a stark contrast. "Your Honor," he began, "this case is not about biology versus finances, as the opposing counsel would have us believe. It's about the best interests of two 5-year-old girls who have already suffered the traumatic loss of their mother." He held up photos. "Here are Lily and Daisy, 3 months ago when Mr. Carter found them, and here they are now." The photos showed a stark difference. 2 thin, anxious girls and 2 smiling, healthy children. "Mr. Carter hasn't just provided material stability," David continued. "He has devoted himself fully to creating a safe, loving, and stimulating environment. He completely reorganized his professional life, his time, his priorities. He's established healthy routines, ensured medical and psychological care, enrolled them back in school, learned to braid their hair, tell them bedtime stories, and soothe their nightmares. We have here reports from their school statements, from their child therapist, and evaluations from the social worker assigned by the court, all attesting to the strong bond and the positive development of the girls under Mr. Carter's care. As for Mr. Johnson, we ask this court to consider some facts. He abandoned Jennifer Johnson when he learned of the pregnancy. He didn't contribute a single cent to the girl's upbringing. He showed up only once in 5 years, drunk demanding money from the mother, and most tellingly, he only expressed interest in the girls after learning they were with a wealthy man." Johnson shifted uncomfortably. "Your Honor," David concluded, "we acknowledge that biological ties are important, but more important is the emotional and psychological well-being of 2 children who have finally found stability after a devastating loss to uproot Lily and Daisy from the home they've built with Mr. Carter and place them with a father who has never shown genuine interest would be a second tragedy for them." The hearing continued. The social worker praised Ryan's home and his natural affection for the girls. Their teacher testified to their remarkable progress. Mrs. Olson, frail but firm, described Billy Ray's neglect. "Jennifer raised those girls alone, working until she got sick," she testified, looking at him directly. "Where were you when she needed money for the girls' medicine? Where were you when Lily had pneumonia at 3 and Sarah spent sleepless nights by her bedside?" Then she looked at the judge. "Ryan Carter came into those children's lives like a blessing for the first time they have what they deserve. Not just material comfort, but someone who genuinely cares." Billy Ray then told his story of redemption, of battling alcoholism and thinking of his daughters, his tears looking rehearsed to Ryan. "I've made mistakes, Your Honor," he said, "but I've been clean for 6 months now. I want to meet my daughters, show them they have a father who loves them." A mechanic he worked for confirmed his recent punctuality. Then it was Ryan's turn. "Mr. Carter," the judge began, "you're an extremely busy man with global business responsibilities. How do you reconcile that with raising 2 small children?" "I've completely reorganized my priorities, Your Honor," he replied, meeting her gaze. I delegated much of my work, turned down international travel, and set strict schedules to be present in the girls' lives. I arranged my day to have breakfast with them, take them to school whenever possible, and I'm invariably home for dinner and bedtime, and when you inevitably need to travel, I have a highly qualified nanny, Mrs. Bennett, whom the girls adore, but I'm limiting trips to what's absolutely essential and only short distances where I can return the same day. The judge consulted her notes. You have no previous experience with children, correct? No children of your own, no nieces or nephews. No, Your Honor. But I learned quickly, he offered a slight smile. I've discovered that executives can learn a lot from 5-year-olds about what truly matters in life. The judge studied him. Mr. Carter, please be completely honest. What is your real motivation for wanting custody of these girls? Guilt over not helping their mother, a promise made long ago, her late desire for a family. Ryan sensed this was the critical moment. I started out motivated by a debt to Jennifer. Yes, she helped me when I needed it most, and I wasn't there when she needed me. I feel deep regret. I'll carry forever. He paused. But that changed the moment I met Lily and Daisy. They're not an obligation or a way to make amends. They're extraordinary little people who've transformed my life in ways I never imagined. The simple truth, Your Honor, is that I love them, and I can't picture my life without them anymore. Then, the moment Ryan dreaded. The judge asked to speak with the girls in private. He watched them walk into her chambers, his heart in his throat. The 20 minutes they were gone were the longest of his life. When they came out, Daisy ran to him. She asked a lot of questions, she whispered. About you, about Mom, about the man who's our father. You were very brave, he replied, stroking her hair. Lily lingered, looking at Billy Ray. He looks sad, she commented. Sometimes people carry a lot of sadness inside, he replied. Like you before we met, Lily asked with startling perception. Yes, he admitted. Like me before you, Judge Thompson, put on her glasses, the silence in the room deafening. This case raises complex issues, she began. On one hand, we have the biological father's legal rights, on the other, the children's well-being and the emotional bonds already formed. I spoke with Lily and Daisy. They're bright, articulate children for their age, and they're clearly well cared for. They expressed deep affection for Mr. Carter and a positive adjustment to their new home. Ryan felt a flicker of hope. However, the judge continued, and his heart sank. I cannot ignore Mr. Johnson's paternal rights without a deeper evaluation of his fitness. His recent history suggests an effort at recovery that deserves consideration. I must also consider that despite Mr. Carter's best intentions and excellent care, he has no legal or biological connection to the children. His link to their late mother, while significant against this, does not automatically grant custody rights. Johnson allowed a small, triumphant smile as Ryan's world crumbled. With all factors in mind, my preliminary decision is this, the judge announced. While we conduct further investigation, including a deeper look into Mr. Johnson's suitability and full psychological evaluations, the girls will be placed temporarily in a neutral foster home, the fosters who are experienced in transitional care. No, Ryan couldn't stop the word from escaping, rising to his feet. The judge shot him a stern look. I understand your reaction, Mr. Carter, but this is a temporary measure to ensure both parties have equal opportunity to demonstrate their fitness for custody without the advantage of current possession. Both parties will have supervised visitation rights during this time. Your Honor, David intervened. My client has established a stable routine with the girls removing them. Abruptly will cause needless trauma. I agree, the transition must be handled carefully, the judge replied, which is why Mr. Carter will have until tomorrow to prepare the girls and their belongings a social worker will supervise. With a bang of the gavel, the hearing was over. What followed was a blur, the social worker explaining, Daisy clinging to him, crying, Lily pale and silent, asking if they had done something wrong. The next day he helped them pack. He put Lily's favorite teddy bear in her backpack. He carefully folded Daisy's special blanket. You'll stay with the Fosters just for a while, he explained, his voice hollow. They're really nice. They have a big backyard and even a dog, he forced a smile. And I'll visit you every day. I promise when the social worker's car arrived, it was a waking nightmare. Daisy threw her arms around his neck. Ryan, she cried. Please come with us. I don't want to go. I'll visit you tomorrow, he promised, fighting his own tears. Every day it's just for a little while. Promise? Lily asked, her composure finally breaking. I promise, he forced another smile. Be brave like your mom was. Remember. They nodded, and then they were in the car, their small hands pressed against the glass, their faces a mask of confusion and loss. He watched the car disappear and then collapsed on the steps of his own home, his body racked with sobs. David, who had been watching, placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll appeal immediately, he said. I have connections. I can speed up the process. We'll dig deeper into Johnson's background. There's something off about his sudden redemption story. Ryan looked up, his eyes red but full of a new fire. Do whatever it takes. I won't lose those girls. You didn't fail them, David said. This is only a temporary setback. We'll fight, and we'll win. Ryan stood, wiping his face. He had failed Jennifer. He would not fail her daughters. I'll visit them tomorrow, he announced, his voice firm. And in the meantime, I want to know everything about Billy Ray Johnson, every detail, every lie, because this time Ryan Carter would not break his promise. The 2 weeks Lily and Daisy spent in foster care were an eternity for Ryan. The daily visits were a torture of hellos and goodbyes. The girls were resilient, but he saw the sadness in their eyes each time he had to leave. Meanwhile, David Lee and his team worked relentlessly. The afternoon before the final hearing, David called, his voice urgent. We found something, he said, or rather, someone found us. I need you at the office immediately. In the conference room, David waited with a tired-looking man in a janitor's uniform. Ryan, this is Mr. Garcia, David introduced. He works at the building where Johnson lives. The man, Mr. Garcia, had dark circles under his eyes. Mr. Garcia came to us after seeing the newspaper story about the case, David explained. I saw the picture of the girls, Mr. Garcia said, his accent thick. I recognize them. They're the same kids Johnson brings to the apartment during his supervised visits. Ryan's heart pounded. You saw something? Mr. Garcia hesitated. I've worked that building for 15 years. I know all the residents. Johnson moved in. 8 months ago. He's always caused problems, noise and parties, neighbors complaining. I thought maybe he was really turning his life around, but David prompted. Day before yesterday, after the social worker left with the girls, Johnson had some friends over. They were drinking at a bar down the street. They were loud laughing. Mr. Garcia looked directly at Ryan. I heard him bragging about how he was about to pull off the custody scam. He said once he had the girls, he could negotiate a better deal with that rich guy. Ryan felt his blood boil. He admitted he only wants money. That and more, Mr. Garcia continued. He said he couldn't stand those brats for long, but that they'd serve as leverage to get a fat allowance from you. His friends laughed and toasted his brilliant plan. Would you be willing to testify to this in court tomorrow? David asked. Mr. Garcia hesitated again. I have 2 jobs, 3 kids to support. I can't afford to get into trouble, I understand, Ryan said, sitting opposite him. But these girls have already lost their mother. They don't deserve to be used as pawns. Mr. Garcia lowered his gaze. My wife passed away when my kids were little. I know what it's like to struggle raising children alone. He sighed. I'll be in court tomorrow. Ryan felt a wave of profound gratitude. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. Take good care of them, Mr. Garcia replied. That's the best thanks after he left. David was energized. This is exactly what we needed, an independent witness to Johnson's true intentions. Will it be enough? Ryan asked, a spark of hope igniting. Combined with the positive reports about your custody and the circumstantial evidence we already have on Johnson, I believe so. For the first time in days, David smiled. Let's get everything ready for tomorrow. The tide is turning, Ryan. The day of the final hearing dawned bright and clear. Ryan arrived at the courthouse early, his heart a mix of hope and dread. he saw the Foster parents. "How are they?" he asked. Mrs. Foster smiled. "They're eager to see you. They've been asking all morning when you would get here." "They're wonderful kids," Mr. Foster added. "Whoever ends up with custody is very lucky." David approached with a nervous-looking Mr. Garcia. "Everything's prepared. He'll testify early in the hearing." The courtroom felt smaller, more stifling. Ryan saw Johnson whispering and laughing with his lawyer, an unnerving display of confidence. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Thompson," the officer announced. After formalities, David called Mr. Garcia to the stand. He was hesitant at first, but his voice grew stronger as he recounted what he had witnessed: the parties, the noise, and finally the overheard conversation. He said plainly that the girls were just a means to extort money from Mr. Carter, Mr. Garcia concluded. He called them brats and toasted his brilliant plan with his buddies. Johnson's face went white. His lawyer tried to discredit the testimony, but Mr. Garcia was unshakable. "I have nothing against him personally," he said honestly. "I just don't like seeing children used. I have 3 kids of my own. I know how important a stable home is." David then presented more evidence: neighbors' complaints, credit card statements showing alcohol purchases, a photo of Johnson leaving a bar. The judge listened intently. After a 30-minute recess, she returned. "This court values truth above all," she began, her voice firm. "And the truth that has emerged here today is deeply disturbing. The evidence strongly suggests Mr. Johnson does not seek custody out of paternal love, but for financial gain in light of Mr. Garcia's testimony. Combined with the other evidence, this court reverses its previous decision. Temporary custody of Lily and Daisy Johnson is granted to Mr. Ryan Carter while we conduct further investigation into Mr. Johnson's conduct." Ryan closed his eyes, relief washing over him. David gripped his arm, smiling. Furthermore, the judge continued, "Mr. Johnson's visitation rights are suspended until this investigation is complete and a new hearing is held." She cast a severe look at Johnson. "This court will not tolerate children being used as instruments of extortion. If these allegations are confirmed, you could face criminal charges for attempted extortion." With a strike of the gavel, it was over. Johnson and his lawyer left in a hurry. Ryan sat for a moment, absorbing it. "We won," David said, "or at least this battle." "Thank you," Ryan managed, shaking Mr. Garcia's hand. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Go get your girls," the janitor replied. "They're waiting for you." The waiting room lit up the moment Ryan entered. He saw them on a couch, 2 small figures surrounded by drawings. Daisy was the first to see him, her face transforming into pure joy. She leaped from the couch and ran toward him. Lily looked up, a slower but equally radiant smile spreading across her face. In an instant, they were both in his arms, clinging to him. He held them tight, lifting them off the ground, their faces pressed against his chest. "You're coming home with me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Forever?" Daisy asked, her eyes locked on his. "As far as I'm concerned, yes," he replied, kissing the top of her head. "Forever." Soon they were in the car, on the way home. Ryan watched them in the rearview mirror, chattering excitedly. A strange feeling, a profound sense of responsibility washed over him. What if he wasn't good enough? What if he made mistakes? The anxiety lingered. That night, after baths and stories, the girls asked to sleep in his bed. "Just tonight," Lily pleaded. "So we know it's not a dream." The 3 of them settled in, Ryan in the middle. He felt he needed to be honest. "Girls," he began, his voice low, "I need to tell you something important." They both turned to him, their eyes attentive. "I'm very happy you're back, happier than I've ever been," he said. "But I'm also a little scared." "Why?" Daisy asked, confused. "That bad man can't take us anymore, can he?" "No, it's not that," Ryan reassured her. "I'm scared of not being good enough for you, of not knowing how to be a good caregiver." He couldn't bring himself to say, "Father, I've never taken care of kids before you, and you deserve the best." Lily propped herself on an elbow. You let us pick desserts sometimes and take us to the park, Daisy added. And you know how to braid our hair and give us hugs when we have nightmares, and you taught us to ride bikes. They continued, listing all the small things he did for them. Tears welled in Ryan's eyes. But what if I make mistakes? He asked. Daisy shrugged. Mom used to say, everyone makes mistakes, you just say you're sorry and try again. Yeah, Lily agreed. Besides, she and her sister exchanged a look. You're already our dad, they finished in unison. The words hit him like a physical force. He drew them close, hugging them tight. I love you, he finally managed. So much. We love you too, Lily replied, yawning. To the moon and back, Daisy mumbled, already half asleep. Ryan stayed awake long after they slept, watching them. The fear was still there, but something stronger had taken its place. A fierce determination to be worthy of their trust, to be the father they already believed him to be. You'd be proud, Jennifer, he whispered into the darkness. I promise I'll take care of them always. Autumn arrived, painting the cemetery in hues of gold and crimson. The sky was a perfect, cloudless blue. Ryan adjusted Lily's scarf as Sophie clutched a bouquet of sunflowers, Jennifer's favorite. In her other hand was a folder of drawings. Is it still far? Lily asked. Almost there, Ryan replied. It was their first visit to Jennifer's grave since he'd won permanent custody. Billy Ray Johnson had vanished, a ghost from a past they were leaving behind. It's here, Ryan said, stopping before a simple, elegant headstone. Jennifer Johnson, 1990, 2024, beloved mother, daughter, and friend. Her love lives on in every smile of her daughters. Ryan had replaced the simple municipal plaque with something more fitting, an inscription he and the girls had chosen together. Daisy knelt and placed the sunflowers at the base. Hi, Mom, she said softly. We brought your favorite flowers. Emily stood back, hesitant, until Ryan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. It's been a while since we've seen you, Mom, she finally said, but we think about you every day. Ryan felt a lump in his throat. Girls, he began, I wrote a letter for your mom. Would you like to hear it? They nodded, and he pulled an envelope from his pocket. Dear Jennifer, he began, his voice steady. It's been many years since we last spoke. Too many when we were young. You saved me in more ways than I could ever count. You gave me food when I was hungry, shelter when I had nowhere to go, and hope when everything seemed hopeless. I promised I would never let you down, but I broke that promise. I built a life of success and forgot the person who made it possible. There is no excuse for that abandonment, only deep regret I will carry forever, fate, or maybe your invisible hand guided your daughters to me. Lily and Daisy have taught me what truly matters in life through them. I rediscovered parts of myself. I had forgotten the ability to laugh without restraint, to marvel at small discoveries, to love unconditionally. Now I have a new promise to make. I won't fail again. I promise I will care for your daughters as if they were my own. In fact, in my heart, they already are. I promise to raise them with the values you cherished, kindness, courage, integrity, and generosity. I'll tell them stories about you every day, so they never forget the extraordinary woman who was their mother. He looked up at the sky. Wherever you are, I hope you can see what we're building: a family, a home, a life filled with love. It's the least you deserved, and it's what your daughters will always have, with eternal love and gratitude. Ryan, when he finished, Emily was the first to speak. Mom would like that letter, she said confidently. She always said we have to tell people we love them before it's too late. Ryan smiled through his tears. She was very wise. Daisy spread her drawings before the headstone. We made these for you, Mom, she explained. This one's our new house with Ryan, and this one's my room. This one's us at the park riding bikes. The last drawing showed 3 figures holding hands, with a 4th smiling down from the sky. That's you watching us, Lily said. Ryan says you're always looking out for us. Ryan knelt between them, an arm around each. We can come here whenever you want to talk to your mom, he said. And we can talk to her every day, wherever we are. Can she really hear us? Daisy asked. "I believe she can," Ryan answered. "In some way, the people we love always hear us." They stayed a while longer, the girls chattering away to their mother. As they left, they blew kisses to the headstone. On the drive back, Ryan reflected on how much had changed. The penthouse, once a cold gallery of his success, was now a home. The formal living room had comfortable sofas and shelves of children's books. The kitchen, once pristine and unused, was now the heart of the house, often filled with the mess of Sunday morning pancake making. The once sacrosanct study was now a colorful playroom. The manicured terrace now had a small garden plot and a playground. His own life had been transformed. He rearranged his entire work schedule, delegating and declining travel to be home for school pickups, homework, and bedtime stories. He had navigated parent-teacher conferences and the complex social dramas of 5-year-olds. Last week, when Lily had called from school with a stomachache, he had walked out of a major board meeting without a second thought. "My daughter needs me," he'd said, the words feeling more real and important than any business deal. The once silent penthouse was now filled with laughter, music, and the sound of small feet. That night, after tucking the girls in, Ryan paused in the hallway. He looked at a framed photo of Jennifer at 16, smiling. Next to it was a recent photo of the twins on the backyard swings, their smiles just as luminous. For the first time in his adult life, Ryan Carter felt he was exactly where he was meant to be. His empire was just steel and code. His true wealth was asleep in the next room. "We're doing well, Jennifer," he whispered to the photograph. "Your girls are growing strong and happy, and I'm finally learning what really matters." He had found his purpose not in a boardroom, but in a home with 2 little girls who were teaching him about a love he never knew he was capable of. The circle was complete, the promise kept, not out of guilt, but out of a profound and unconditional love. Christmas morning arrived with a gentle snowfall, blanketing the city in a pristine white. Ryan woke to the sound of muffled giggles outside his door. He feigned sleep as 2 small figures tiptoed in. "Do you think he's awake yet?" Emily whispered. "I don't know," Sophie whispered back. "He looks like he's still sleeping should we wait, but I want to see his face when he opens our present." Ryan suppressed a smile. For days the girls had been full of secrets, disappearing into their room with Mrs. Bennet, their nanny, to work on a mysterious project. 1, 2, 3 they counted, then leaped onto the bed. "Merry Christmas, Ryan." He opened his eyes to a double hug. The twins wore matching red pajamas. "Merry Christmas, princesses," he replied, hugging them back. "Did Santa come already?" "Yes," they cried. "There are tons of presents under the tree." "But," Lily added seriously, "there's one special present that's not from Santa. It's from us to you, and you have to open it first before all the others," Daisy said decisively. Ryan sat up, intrigued. "A present from you? I can't wait to see it." Daisy returned with a rectangular package wrapped in slightly crumpled red paper. "You have to read the card first," she instructed, handing him an envelope covered in stickers. Ryan opened it. Inside, a handmade card showed 3 stick figures holding hands. In careful, childlike handwriting, it read, "Dear Ryan, Merry Christmas. You're the best dad in the world. With lots of love, Lily and Daisy." It was the first time they had written the word Dad. He had heard it a few times, but seeing it in writing sent a jolt through him. "It's beautiful," he said, his voice thick. "Thank you, girls, now the present," Daisy insisted. Ryan carefully unwrapped the gift. It was a handmade picture frame decorated with shells, buttons, and glitter. Inside was the photo of Jennifer, the one they always kept. Beneath it, a small, neatly printed card read, "Now you're our angel." Ryan felt tears well up. The girls watched him anxiously. "Are you crying because you didn't like it?" Daisy asked, her voice small. "No, sweetie," he replied, pulling her into a hug. "I'm crying because it's the most beautiful gift I've ever received in my life." "Mrs. Bennet said we could give you Mom's photo," Lily explained. because now you're part of our family too, and Mom always said an angel would come for us," Daisy added. "And you did?" Ryan couldn't hold back the tears. He hugged them both, overwhelmed. "You two are the greatest gifts I could ever receive," he finally said. "I'm the one who should thank you every day." The girls beamed, their mission accomplished. "Can we open the other presents now?" Lily asked. Ryan laughed, wiping his eyes. "Of course we can. Let's go see what Santa brought." They went downstairs, hand in hand. The living room was a sea of colorful presents. Ryan placed the handmade frame on the mantel, a place of honor. Jennifer's photo seemed to watch over them with a serene smile. He thought about the man he was a year ago, lonely and driven, in a cold, empty home. Now he was a father. The word felt right. It felt like coming home. Watching his daughters tear into their gifts with shrieks of joy, Ryan Carter knew he had found something no amount of money could ever buy. His entire empire felt like a footnote compared to the immeasurable treasure of this new family. "Ryan, come see," Daisy called, holding a new doll. "Does she look like me?" "Exactly like you," he agreed, joining them on the floor amidst the sea of wrapping paper. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the world in a blanket of white. But inside, in the warmth of the fire and the even greater warmth of their affection, Ryan, Lily, and Daisy had built their own perfect universe. It was a second chance, a new beginning, and he knew with a certainty that shook him to his core that this was just the start of a beautiful life for the three of them.